Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. Of course, you know it's the pod. Justin, Nico, and Dan. Nico, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Dan, how you doing?
I'm feeling pretty good, actually.
That's good to know, son. So, all right, real quick, before we get into this week's episode, it's going to be a little bit different. We're actually going to be reviewing 2 independent horror shorts. Now, Dan, why don't you go ahead and let the people know, we like horror shorts, don't we?
Yeah, we've actually been watching horror shorts for years, even back like long before the podcast was ever a thought. Probably 6-7 years ago or more.
Pretty much.
We've always kind of gotten together, just hung out and watched some horror shorts. So it's something that we've always loved doing. And at least I particularly, I'm always really a big fan of the people behind the scenes sort of in the industry. I'm not that big into like, oh, I love this particular actor. There are definitely actors I love, but I like to know about the special effects people or the audio people or the script writers or, all those kind of people behind the scenes. So horror shorts to me are really cool because it's a much smaller cast and I can really, it just allows those people to shine, I think. And I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Agreed. So we're going to go ahead and lead our double feature with Still. Now, this was directed by Jeremy Nocon, written by Sebastian Bazille. Hopefully I said that right. And it stars Caroline Hunter Huey-Jones as Dakota and also Robbie DeRaffel as Ben. So we kind of open the movie with a girl putting her little brother to sleep. Now, they do kind of give you hints. They drop hints that the mother has passed away. We're not really 100% sure as to the dad. But then we kind of get into, after she tucks him in, we get into a little habit she has, we might say. So Nico, she goes into the living room, she puts on the TV, and then what else does she do?
Yeah, so I very much identify with Dakota here because when we pan over to see her reclining on the couch or chair or whatever, there are 4 coffee cups on the little night table next to her, and little peek behind the microphone, I guess, behind the scenes here. So your boy Nico is a mess. And I am normally very nocturnal and also consume, probably about 2 cups of coffee per day. In the short film, she has like 4 all right next to her, and there's some that are still full. So like clearly she is very distressed and trying to stay awake, which comes into play a little bit later.
Yeah, a little bit being now, because she tries to, keep herself awake, and we're not sure why yet. Intelligent viewers will know from the title, but I guess, I don't know, she must have like dish or something, or her satellite goes out, because the TV just cuts off like out the blue, and then she falls asleep instantly. You know how people use the phrase, I hit the bed and fell asleep? Well,
dude, I wish I could do that. She
literally hit the couch and fell asleep. And while she's sleeping, there's almost like a demon that she sees, a shadowy monster. Nico, you would kind of class it as a demon, right? It's not.
I'd
it's
say
humanoid.
So.
It's humanoid, but not human.
Yeah, it's not like a Wendigo or anything.
Nah, definitely not. And the whole time, she can't move because sleep paralysis. And that is something that not a lot of people, I think, what is it, a decent amount. Some people estimate 4 out of 10. Some estimate lower, some higher. And she can't move. So she's being forced as this monstrosity, and it glitches, right? It glitches as it moves towards her.
That was cool as hell.
Mm-hmm. It was a cool visual effect for sure. And it kind of, it slowly approaches her. Now, it doesn't hurt her, does it, Nico?
No, it's just really menacing. It's like looming over her, and you can see its like claws or hands just like glitching and reaching out towards her. But that's the terror of it. It's all in the anticipation. There's never any actual violence done to Dakota.
Correct. Now, her brother, who I guess woke up, he runs over and he sees that she's asleep. So he's trying to wake her up, and he's trying to shake her to make sure she's awake. And she does wake up. And then, she kind of, after getting over what happened to her, she tucks him back into bed. And this is when she notices something strange. Dan, why don't you go into a little bit about that?
So she sees a little figurine kind of thing on his nightstand that looks just like that kind of demonic shadowy thing. And she sees like a picture book, like a coloring book, and with some papers in it. And she notices that he's been drawing the same thing that she was seeing. And in a lot of the pictures in the coloring book, he's drawn in this figure. In like in all the pictures in there, he's also sleeping. The main kid in the book is sleeping, anyways, and like the creature will be in the background or something like that. So it seems like he has been seeing it too.
And that is where the movie ends, right? It basically just kind of cuts us there. And it does give us a little bit afterwards just about, kind of the more clinical diagnosis of sleep paralysis.
Which I really liked.
Yeah, that was cool.
Something.
Yeah.
It is. And it says basically, atonia is when, the brain causes your muscles to relax as you sleep, but you wake up. So your muscles are still relaxed and still, but your mind is awake, and it's sleep paralysis. Now, what they have here is they say about 4 out of every 10 people suffer from it. And in most cases, people report encounters with apparitions. And they say this is one of those stories. So I don't know if this was like a true story, like for real true.
Yeah, who's
or
to
one
say?
of those quote unquote true stories where everyone says it's true, but it's not. I'm not sure. But it's definitely interesting nonetheless. So let's go ahead and break this down to the nitty gritty. Let's go ahead and start with the visuals. So Nico, what did you think? I mean, it is a horror short, obviously. So it's about 7.5 minutes long. What did you think about the cinematography, the design of the demon? How'd you feel about it?
So honestly, this is one of the things that I really liked about still, as well as horror shorts in general, is that they are much more able to fully commit to one idea and really just get into it. The cinematography was really nice, particularly because it all took place in just a fucking house, and like the shots were nice, panning between rooms, and the transitions between the different scenes were all very fluid and organic. In particular, the shot where the camera pans to above her and we have the demon thing's perspective, I thought that was a really, really nice shot. But I think the best part of the visuals, apart from just the rather professional looking lighting and color grading, the demon looked fucking cool, man. It didn't look unprofessional at all. And the nice thing about it is you can tell that some of it at least was definitely CG, because it's got this like apparition-esque quality where it sort of like glitches in and out. And I just thought it was really well done. It was honestly really impressive.
Yeah, and I think to your point, about because it's a shorter movie, it is really able to focus in on a point. I mean, they have the budget here to put out something that looks super professional. I mean, for me, this is really good quality work.
This looks better than some of the movies we've seen.
Right.
I mean, not to name names, but yes.
Not to name names, but
No, it really does look good. Now, switching things to the audio side here, Dan, how do you feel about the audio?
Mostly, I liked it. I liked the score. My only sort of criticism on it, and maybe I'm being a little critical because I'm an audio person, but at least the first half or so before she kind of fell asleep and the demon thing came in, I felt like some of the Foley and the overdubs, the sound effects and everything was a little much. Like she would put down like her coffee and it would be like really loud, or she'd like tuck the child into bed and it would like the rustling of the sheets would be like really loud. So I feel like that was a little much. But other than that, I actually really liked it. Like the voices were nice and clear and crisp. I can tell that attention to detail in the audio was there.
it was definitely made with care.
Definitely. So yeah, aside from that little bit there, I actually really liked it.
Yeah, I believe the guy in charge of sound was Michael Galvin.
Well, he sure galvanized us here.
Did. And I mean, like, I'm looking at this. I mean, you're pretty on point. I was going to mention the sound as well, but also, and this is something to consider as well, we've seen movies, particularly A Quiet Place, where I have made a comment about, I thought this was a little bit loud.
That's true.
And I wonder, and I kind of know the answer a little bit, but I wonder if it's not maybe partially due to the quality of horror movies, and you're meant to be watching this in a dark room, kind of as isolated as possible, where loud sounds kind of make you jump a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of jump scares, man. Like
and I don't think those are jump scares, but
Well, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They're not jump scares, but like there have been, I forget the actual movies in question, but there was a talk with some famous director. I want to say it was either, who directed Halloween? I'm ashamed of myself.
John Carpenter.
John Carpenter, yes, yeah. I'm pretty sure there was a scene where he was talking about how there's a scary part, there's a jump scare in it that's not actually scary. It's just there is a sudden crescendo in the sound when one of the women's talking to the detective, and like that sort of cemented in the trend of sound being the more at least visceral thing that gets a response out of you. So I definitely do understand what you're saying in terms of like how we're supposed to be, watching this in a environment that's suited for it, not like, the kids are just causing a mess everywhere and there's soups on the stove or something. Like it's
soups on the stove. Let me watch some horror shorts.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Look, I don't know your fucking life, all right?
Hey, that could be a horror short, soups on the stove, and like they're actually
burning the soup.
They're cooking people or something.
Or a fucking trap song. Yeah.
Also a trap song.
Those aren't tomatoes in the soup.
No. Oh shit.
Hey, no one take that idea. That's a DOTD exclusive. But if you want it, let us know. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the creature here, not just in terms of, how it looks, but what kind of monster is this? And personally, I think one, and this is a real far out there example, and I apologize for not being able to think of anything else. But Nico, you remember that one kind of cosmic horror game that came out for the PlayStation? You played as a detective in Innsmouth.
Oh shit! Yeah. Oh god.
There was a monster. There was a monster called, for anyone who's played that game or seen anyone play it, there's a monster called the Dimensional Shambler, and it basically kind of like glitches in and out of existence. And I thought this monster did bear some similarities to that, because this monster was kind of glitching in and out, so to speak. Dan, what do you think about that monster? Just it's the limited power we see from it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean it was interesting because I don't know if maybe it also stems from like the TV show she was watching, because before the TV cut off, there was like it's like a horror movie or something she was watching.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Bit of a spirit. I've got a interesting take, a hot take on.
Oh my god, hit me with it.
I was just wondering if maybe there's symbolism behind the creature and if the creature is supposed to portray something, because I noticed at the end of the movie when she's flipping through the coloring book and she sees that the kid had drawn in the monster and everything, the last picture in the book is him laying in bed, and it looks like the monster is like kissing him goodnight or something.
Right.
And it's the only picture in the book that is actually scribbled out, like the kid had taken like a crayon and scribbled on top of it, like scratched it out.
Exactly.
But at the beginning of the movie, she tucks him into bed and kisses him goodnight. So I'm wondering, and maybe I'm reading into it too much or something, but I'm wondering if there's some sort of symbolism there.
I think you're definitely right, man.
And maybe, I wonder, right? Maybe what it is when she's asleep. Maybe when she sleeps, the monster is actually like out there. Or something else. I don't know. Or maybe she is the monster.
This is what I love about horror shorts. Like, when there is a, full-length film, we usually get the answers and, like, we know what's happening. But in this instance, because it's so, it's such a more limited scope, it's the attention from the directors and the writers is all dedicated towards just the atmosphere in the moment and establishing the tension. And that's just so cool. And I would be remiss to not mention this. I think that you are absolutely right about that, Dan, because of one thing in particular. This short is kind of meta, and I think that is extremely intentional. When I first sat down to watch this, I even wrote down how she was like just settling into the first thing she sees on the TV, and she's watching a horror short. And I think that's super cool that they put a horror short in a horror short. And even that looks professional, and like I kind of want to see the rest of it. But just the fact that we have the material sort of acknowledging itself, we have this kind of like intertextuality, it's really cool. And I think there is a definite sort of nod to the media itself insofar as the fact that we have Ben just like scribbling out the last picture. I think that might be hinting at something, that perhaps the monster is either the lingering, trauma from the parents or just like, growing pains and stuff. Like, it's definitely intentional, and I give the short film props for that. Nothing is ever out of place.
Now, I do have one other thought. I think you had mentioned something, Justin, about like maybe the monster is like actually there or something, like
Right.
Since he sees it too. That reminded me that when he wakes her up, he does say, I can't bear to lose you too.
Yeah.
So maybe he knows that the
really loves
monster
Bono,
is
man.
there. Yeah, right. Maybe he knows that the monster is there and is like trying to get her. And maybe that's what got like his mom or parents or whatever killed. So now he's trying to stop it from happening to her as well.
True. Very, very, very true. For a second there, I thought that since they hadn't ever really mentioned the father, that the monster was going to turn out to be the father or something else like
That'd
that,
be-
or
that'd be a
something
plot
to
twist,
do
yeah.
with the father.
Maybe it's a metaphor
And-
for divorce.
That was one of the potential things I was thinking
Yeah.
about. That, like even though he's not there anymore, his ghost is still haunting them or whatever. But nevertheless, for sure. And I do think it's important to note the monster kissing the boy, as if to cement the monster didn't actually mean any harm to him.
Right.
True.
So
Very true.
I don't know. That's very interesting. Also interesting is the word remiss that Nico said a couple minutes ago. You would think the word remiss would mean to miss again, to remiss.
You got
Would
me
you?
there, Chief. I mean,
Sorry, you got to think about things like that sometimes. So in any case,
the master has been schooled.
I will say,
The English teacher just got English taught.
Bamboozled.
speaking of
hell.
school and getting schooled by the master and the master being schooled. So I am the 4 and 10 people who suffer from sleep paralysis. So I did want to take a little second to go into it and the movie's depiction of it. So I think largely they got a bunch of things right and only maybe one or two small things that I personally had a gripe with. So for me, and I can't speak as to how it is for anyone else, when I have sleep paralysis, normally, not always, but normally, I'm having a nightmare. And essentially what happens is I know that I'm having a dream, but I can't move. It's basically like being unable to even move anything. I can't move my finger. And for me personally, the only way that I've ever been able to snap out of it is to just keep trying really hard to wiggle like my fingers against one another, or like wiggle, like even like, like Kill Bill, wiggle your big toe.
Wiggle your big
like,
toe. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
going to say that.
do anything I can to get some movement. Also, sometimes like because I can still thankfully kind of control my breathing a little bit. So sometimes I will like snore to try and like wake myself up that way. Now,
That's
if
intense.
anyone were to come into the room and just like touch me, shake me, move me, I'd wake up instantly. And that's why, like, if I'm like, in the same bed as my girlfriend, I typically don't have it because she moves around a lot. So she would wake me out of it. And it also normally tends to happen when I oversleep or when I
Ironic.
force myself. Yeah, when I force myself to go to sleep. But there's definitely been times where, I've just been bone tired and then I'll have a night terror combo with sleep paralysis. And that's normally when I hit up Nico, who's also up for no reason at 5 a.m. And
Don't
and
add me.
basically be like, bruh, it happened again. So no, that's true. In the movie,
Do you see apparitions by chance?
see, that's what I was gonna say. So I don't think I see like a hashtag ghost in real life, but like I said, it's normally nightmarish creatures in my dreams.
Now,
That
there was that one time that you told me when we were living together that I was like
the haunted
away that
house?
one night.
That's different. That house was legit out of 10 haunted, bro.
I mean, yeah, that's true. Too.
When are we
feel
going to
like-
talk about this?
We will later. But no, like it typically is, it's a dream. And I know it's a dream, but it can be horrifying and things are happening to me in the dream. Now, for me, the worst thing that can happen is sometimes I just can't wake myself up. So I have no choice but to just like sit there and take it. Like literally a week ago, I had a dream that I couldn't breathe. And I was
dude.
begging my roommate to just, please, you got to touch me. You got to touch me. I can't breathe. and I couldn't wake up from that. Ironically, he did wake me up. He slams doors like a bastard, so he ended up waking me up, but I was thankful for it that time. But yeah, so that's my experience with sleep paralysis. And where I think it differs from the movie is in the movie, she is paralyzed in her dream. I'm not paralyzed in my dream. I can still run around. So, but
That's
outside of
interesting.
that, they definitely caught the feeling of helplessness, the feeling of terror. I mean, I've been going through this since I was a child. When it started happening to me, I was scared shitless. Now, I mean, I probably might just mention it to you in passing or something, but I mean, it's one of those things that you cope with, right? And you learn about it.
So like it's a thing where you are fully like cognizant of the world outside of you, but you need someone to wake you up inside.
Wake me
Yeah.
up.
Wake me up. I'm sorry, I had to.
You're funny enough. No, but dead ass. Yeah, like it's basically like I know that I am awake, but none of my senses, aside from my like hearing, are attuned to the and touch are attuned to the outside world. Probably smell too. Like
Stay woke, fam.
I literally, my eyes are like wired shut. I cannot open my eyes. Like they just feel like they're just closed, and I have no control, none.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's fun, but not fun at all. So, and that's actually probably my favorite thing about the movie, just the way they showed it in a way that wasn't overly dramatic. I thought it was fairly accurate. The only thing was that she was paralyzed in the dream, where I'm typically not. Nico, what was your favorite thing about the movie?
Honestly, my favorite thing, and this is going to be really weird to say, my favorite thing was just how they allocated the resources for this movie. It's kind of like you can't see the wind, but you can see how it moves things. So follow me here. You know that this isn't a blockbuster. So like, you know, they didn't have like millions and millions of dollars or something, but I love what they did to make the atmosphere just work with the lighting, and
True.
the shots were all extremely stable and well done. But the biggest thing I love is the creature design. Like
Yes.
we talk all the time here on Don't Open That Door about how there is a big difference between when something is CG and when something is real. And, you know, like I said a few minutes ago, obviously there's a whole lot of this that is CG, but the fact that it is sort of like written into the narrative that it's like glitching in and out of existence makes it more eerie. And so it feels and looks more real, which makes it scarier. So I just really love how they planned everything out and just had this attention to detail with everything.
Yeah, I will say it definitely was at some point in time a guy or a girl in a suit, because when the monster was running around in the corner, it was kind of like hee 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 ho. Like it was kind of running. I know you can't see what I've just done, but imagine it. Like they were, the monster was just kind of like, you know, like how you would kind of sneak away. Like it was solid snaking its way around that house a little bit. Dan, what was your favorite thing about the movie?
I think my favorite part was the creature, kind of like what Nico was saying. I loved how the creature looked.
Exactly what Nico said. But yeah.
Well,
Fuck you, Dan, I guess.
I joke. Keep going, bro. Keep going, bro.
yeah, I mean, pretty much what he said. But anyways, I love the creature, and particularly the glitch effect I thought was cool. My favorite scene, there's a part when like the very like last point when the climax of everything hits, and the creature like reaches its hand out to the girl, and like the hand is like glitching, and you see it like not only go in and out, but sometimes you see it like more forward, more backward.
Yeah.
Like it's really, really awesome. And what they did with that creature was amazing.
True enough. Now, we kind of already talked about this, but let's say you were Dakota and you found that drawing of the monster. What would be your next step? What would you do after this movie ends? Nico?
Probably go to therapy. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if therapy is something that can help with sleep paralysis. I know that it's in some part just biological and anatomical, but I feel like if you can get some sort of like cognitive behavioral therapy going on, you can at least train yourself to think about these situations in a more stable and healthy manner when it happens.
I feel like, so, and this is maybe something I should have touched on earlier. It is believed in many cultures that sleep paralysis is caused by demons or apparitions.
That tracks.
So it may be that her sleep paralysis is not like mine, normal. Like it may be caused by that demon.
Right.
So personally, I feel like I'd have no choice but to ask the little bro, bro,
Yep.
like what's going on here, son? And then based on
Well,
his
yeah.
reaction, I'd have to go from that, because realistically, you can't just have demons pitter-pattering around the place. Remember, he did like the little like
No, I know. I just wasn't expecting that.
hey, yeah, like he did that, like yeah, like that, just around the house. So, and I say he, but it could be anything. So in terms of like the monsters could be anything. So it is what it is.
Jesus Christ.
Nico, I mean, Dan pretty much agreed with me because he knows I'm right, but what about you?
No, I would fucking call Ed and Lorraine Warren. That's what I'd fucking do.
Oh, facts.
They can't come help you, bro. Ed and Lorraine Warren are like 100 years old. Like they're not coming to Arkham to help us with our problem. So,
Oof.
next up is going to be the audience review. So obviously I didn't see a Rotten Tomatoes entry for this. I don't really think they do a lot of horror shorts, but I could say that the audience for this one generally liked it. I mean, this at time of recording, and full disclosure, it's been about 2-3 weeks since this film dropped, and it's got, I mean, a solid number of likes. We're watching this off of the Alter channel, #no sponsor. And yeah, basically a lot of people seem to really like it. And to be honest, I kind of agree. I think for me, this is a stone cold good movie. It is, for me, it is good.
It's just
It's
really
very
good, man.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. So, to
And
kind of
fuck
put this
Dan's
one,
opinion.
What
he said he
Justin
agreed.
said.
Oh, okay.
so you didn't hear his whispers because you were lost in your own dreams.
You're lost
But-
In the sauce, bro.
Yes, here at DOTD, we do not advocate getting lost in the sauce. So, and to put this on like a perspective here on a scale from 0 to 100, like how we do our other movies, where would this one rank?
Mm.
You know, strangely, I hadn't thought about that. I don't know why, because we do it in literally every other episode.
I would say probably for me, I'd stick it at a good.
I'd say high
I'd-
80s.
I would do a little bit lower, and this is coming from me, so please don't take it the wrong way. But I could put it at a 75, rising up to 80, if you were in the right mood, if you watched it in the right way. I mean, yeah, and don't get me wrong, that's not me saying it's average. That is me saying it is good. Like, it is a good, solid flick, and I would recommend people watch it. It's a horror short. Horror shorts are made to be binged. You just get
for sure.
together one night and you watch like 20 of them bitches. So, yeah.
What do you think, Dan?
I would say like an 85. I loved it. I did catch myself maybe halfway through with like my muscles clenched. And I was like, oh shit, this is
Oh,
like,
wow.
like
Okay, clenched up.
Getting to me, right? So I would put it like a pretty solid 85. I think that they had their message and did it very effectively. Great acting. I loved it.
Yeah, you know what? I will say I did quite enjoy the message at the end, because to be honest with you, I think there are people who, you guys, I think when I first told you about it, that I have it, I think the reaction was like, oh, really? Like, what's that like?
I mean, yeah, I've always been genuinely curious about that. So, like, and I truthfully learned a lot listening to you in just like talking about it. So, thank you.
I learned a lot listening to me too.
What?
The master
So-
teaches himself.
That is, they say like water can't surpass ice,
Do they?
but surrounded.
They say that?
Yeah, like water can't surpass ice because the teacher
God.
can't surpass the student. But if you take
Water
ice
can't
and surround it by
surpass
more
ice.
ice, the ice gets colder.
Does it?
Yes.
What the fuck is going on?
Okay, you don't know that if you take ice and surround it by more ice, the ice gets colder?
That's
That
it.
sounds nice.
Well, we'll go ahead and leave it there for this episode. We're all in agreement that this is something we would fully recommend, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, we are going to go ahead and take a quick intermission. Please don't go anywhere. We're going to be reviewing the amazing In Full Bloom right after this. But first, surprise, surprise, we actually have a message from, don't know if you call them a sponsor, but they are the Paranormal Investigative Super Services. So yeah, after a quick message from those guys, we'll be right back. If you're in a haunted house and you're not having any fun, evil be gone, and then you're done. Hey there, listener. Let me ask you a question. Are you flat out tired of unwanted possessions, seances gone wrong, or do you just need a little bit of insurance on your next ghost hunting trip? Well, do we have the product for you? The minds here at Paranormal Investigative Super Services have made Evil Be Gone. Use this and most minor apparitions. Give up the ghost. Hey, sounds like we have some callers on the line. Caller, you're live.
Yeah, what's going on, man? I'm Greg from Overlook Hotel.
Wow, you sound like a strapping young man, Greg. How has Evil Be Gone worked for you?
Well, we found this abandoned haunted joint on this cursed hill, and it looked like the perfect place for Julie, my wife, to raise our kids.
Oh, wow, that sounds perfectly normal.
Right, yeah, and then all of a sudden, one of our kids started climbing up the damn walls.
Man, that's the damnedest thing.
Yeah, so we went straight to our trusty Evil Be Gone, and now that little asshole's out of here.
Wait. The spirit?
Oh yeah, and my kid.
Wow, 2 for 1. That's a great success story. Let's take one more caller. Caller, you're live.
Yo, what up?
Well, how are you?
Honestly, I'm kind of dead.
Whoa, wait a second here. We don't accept any kind of
No,
liability.
I know. I'm just saying, I'm a ghost. Listen.
Oh, okay.
I gotta say, your product is great. I use it all the time.
But you're a ghost.
Yeah?
So how does that work?
Oh, I don't know. Just works.
Well, I mean, first off, I don't even know if the product works, but how are you calling me?
Well, I found some random kid and I just possessed him, and I just really wanted to let you know your product's great.
Oh, perfect. And actually, one more thing I actually want to tell you. Oh, I'm sorry, listeners. That's all the time we've got today. But remember, if you do want some Evil Be Gone, please do follow us at DOTD Horror on Instagram and Twitter. We're also on Facebook at Don't Open That Door Podcast. If you're in a haunted house and you're not having any fun, evil be gone, and then you're done. Evil be gone does not accept any liability. Hey everyone, and we're back. All right, so we're about to get started with the second head of our doubleheader, and we're going to be talking about In Full Bloom. So this was written and directed by Maegan Houang, starring Kyo Chin, which was really, really interesting because, you know, she's pretty legendary in the game. And, you know, she was in the Joy Luck Club and she does a bunch of stuff outside of that. So that was really cool. I honestly, it took me a second. And I had to, when I was looking at who was in this, I was like, wait, what? I recognize that name. And it was crazy. So she's in this. And we've also got cinematography by Christopher Ripley and sound by Rob Rush. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started on this plot. Basically, Gloria, who is the only character in this film, she's agoraphobic and also a hoarder. Now, the movie does kind of, show you that her husband is dead and she's got a picture of him and everything else. She's also a gardener, but she's an interesting kind of gardener because she doesn't go outside because she's agoraphobic. So she grows everything inside. The movie kind of really starts rolling where we see her grabbing a package because she ordered some worms. Now, these worms are, I guess, to help her grow a plant. She's growing like a special plant. But kind of from the gate, we can see, and I mean visually see, these worms are not normal. Dan, why don't you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so the worms are actually stop motion, which I thought was really cool.
Took me a second, but that's cool, right?
Yeah. At first I was like, oh, those look a little weird. But then when I realized they're stop motion, I was like, oh, that's actually sick.
It's like a fucking Tool music video, dude.
Kind of, actually, yeah. But it was cool because, I was actually thinking, it would be really hard to get the worms to do what you need them to do in this movie. So, and instead of going like CG, they went stop motion. I just thought that was a really cool choice. So essentially she puts the worms in the flower pot, and then they dig down, and then a little bit later they escape out of the flower pot, slither along the ground or whatever worms do, inch. Worms inch, right?
Only inchworms inch. They wriggle.
Oh, they wriggle. There we go. They wriggle along the ground, the floor, and they actually crawl under, I think, like a table or something.
Carpet or something.
And they create a hole in the floor, and they just disappear down this hole.
Now, that hole's kind of interesting because it immediately starts kind of dragging. Now, as we said, Gloria is a hoarder. So it starts dragging down some of the things that she's hoarded into the hole. And when Gloria first sees this, I mean, she freaks out, doesn't she, Nico?
Yeah, no, shit, how was your reaction? There's like just abyss in your floor.
Correct. So, she quickly packs up a couple things in a bag, namely and very notably the picture of her husband, who it looks like he was also a gardener, by the way, in that picture.
Maybe
you see him with the gardening gloves on.
Yeah.
And also, the plant. She's trying to take the plant with her. And so she gets to the door, right? And now this is after she tried to cover up the hole with tarp, like most ordinary people would try, and the tarp just disappears. So she gets to the door, and she just can't bring herself to go outside. So she stays in the house, and she basically tries to kind of barricade herself a little bit, and she goes to sleep. Now, later on, it doesn't work. The hole starts to just suck everything into it. It's huge at this point, right, Nico?
Yeah, it's a solid like meter across. It's big. You could like genuinely die.
How big is that in America units?
In America units, it's about 3 1/3 feet.
There you go. Thank you for that. So it's big, basically, and it sucks everything down until the only thing left in the house is Gloria and the still, what's the term for a plant that hasn't bloomed?
Blooming. Unbloomed.
Not fully bloomed. I mean, it's still a fucking plant.
Right. So she takes the plant that has not peaked, not fully bloomed as it
Blossomed.
was, and it's an unblossomed plant. So the point is, she looks outside, and would you say it's a beautiful day? Sunny, at least?
Yeah,
It was a
sunny.
beautiful day. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we see the plant finally open up and bloom as if all it really needed was sunlight. But then, Nico, what happens after that?
So the flower blooms, and she gives a long, wistful glance outside, and she has the chance to escape because at this point her house is empty, and she's still able-bodied. She could leave, but instead she decides to jump in the hole that took everything from her.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where the movie ends. And we hear, and there's a song on the radio that was playing. Now, I don't understand the song. It's in a different language. And I wish I could have found it. I could not find the name of the song, or because I feel like it would have given us some kind of hint as to the relevancy, because the song plays again at the very end.
I'm sure there's a deeper meaning there. That
there is.
You're right. I don't know, but I would love to know what the reference is and everything.
If I had to guess, it sounded like it could have been not necessarily a love song, but the song sounded bittersweet in a way.
Like a lament or something.
Yeah, but that's obviously I don't speak the language. I don't know. So there's definitely that. So let's go ahead and break it down step by step. Audio, Dan, what do you think about the sound in this? I will say before you say it, because I want to say it, the ending, there's like at the very kind of last sequence where she's standing there with the plant and there's the massive hole and her house is empty, it plays this really awesome, it's like a haunting ambient-ish kind of score that's going underneath.
Yes, I loved that.
That was so class.
It was like Silent Hill as fuck, man.
It was dope. It was really, really dope. And I messed with it quite heavily, sir. But Dan, go ahead and tell me about the rest of the sounds.
I loved it. I mean, I have nothing negative to say. It was awesome. The score, like you said, especially that point, was amazing. One thing that I also thought was really interesting, which of course fit for the film, but there's no dialogue. It's kind of like A Quiet Place. Like there's no dialogue in there, but you know exactly what the main character is feeling and what they're thinking, what they're doing. And I think that goes to show that you don't need words to express emotion and everything.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, all the sound effects and everything, the score was on point.
Yeah, Nico, we discussed kind of the nightmare fuel stop motion worms. Outside of that, how'd you feel about the effects, the stuff getting sucked into the black hole, and just the black hole in general? How'd you
It
feel with
was
the visuals?
real. I messed with it, dude. This was so well done. Just in
Yes.
terms of framing the shots, everything was claustrophobic, which both helped, flex the narrative muscles and show that she is a hoarder and agoraphobic, but also just make it feel more cramped and tense and add to the sort of just the agitation that you're feeling as you're watching. And I love the whole, like, it literally looks like a black hole. You cannot see past the periphery of the floor. It's just pitch black and nothing escapes from it. It is like, it's kind of scary to look at it. And that sounds silly to say because it's literally just a black circle, fam. But the impact that it has on Gloria and what it does to her mental state and her home is kind of terrifying.
True. Now, this is an interesting point here, actually. And I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but let's just get into it right now. Would you call this a horror movie? Because obviously, again, this film is, I mean, it's in multiple places. We found it on Alter, but this film it's in a lot of different spots. So how do you, and Alter does specialize in horror, I believe, but would you call this horror?
I don't know. To me, it really it toes the line between horror and drama, I guess. I mean, I think in feeling, it feels very much like Hereditary to me, where Hereditary was very dramatized. I don't want to say dramatized, but it was
Dramatic.
drama. Yes, yeah. It gave me a similar vibe, which is going to sound kind of weird, but in the deeper meaning behind everything. And it wasn't just straight, both of them, I mean, specifically in Full Bloom, isn't really straight horror. But I think it definitely touches on horror elements, and especially like the hole and the unknown of, what's in the hole and just the creation of the hole and all that kind of stuff. I think I would say it's probably horror.
I gotta say, you've really helped connect those dots for me, Dan. It really does resonate with me in a similar way to Hereditary, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point on the podcast. This, in Full Bloom, to me, so horror lies with the emotional reaction of fear. This is a film that I feel is thoroughly about grief.
Yes.
This is something where we can see the grief that Gloria feels manifested around her in her surroundings, but also in her demeanor and her actions, particularly with the ending scene here. She's had this profound fear of loss and the grief over her husband, and that has materialized in her trying to latch on and keep everything that she can, sentimental and otherwise. And instead of, choosing to work towards self-preservation, what she chooses is to be closer to the things that she associates with the positive days, her family and her loved ones. And so she jumps in that hole, I don't think because she's suicidal, but almost to save herself, maybe.
So, first off, is this a horror movie? I would say,
I think it's horrific.
Right. Dan, I think if your opinion puts it at about a 5, I'd put it at about a 4.
Okay.
That is, I think there are, for example, no one wants to be alone. That is scary. Like, no one wants to be old and alone and just surrounded by memories, but not people. Like, no one wants that. So I think that is scary. Is this an out and out horror movie? No, it's not. But, and this is something that I will say to this movie's credit, I normally greatly dislike it when something is marketed to me as a horror movie and then it turns out to be like, the horror was in the human elements, or the horror was in the drama, so to speak.
Whereas I love that shit.
This movie, I feel like, I don't know. I quite like this movie, like a lot. And it's, I think partially maybe because of its runtime. I think it didn't belabor a point. Like, I think it hit exactly kind of what we said earlier in the episode. I think it hit exactly what it needed to hit,
Exactly, yeah.
powerfully enough to stick with me. And then the ending just kind of took it there. So I'm glad you talked about the whole, Nico. So what do the worms represent? And what does the whole represent? And do they represent the same thing?
So the worms, I have to give shout outs again to whoever designed them to do stop motion. If that was you, Chris Ripley, hats off, as well as to Maegan Houang and Rob Rush, everyone. You did a fantastic job in general. What I thought of with the worms is that they were sort of like the things that they were interacting the most with were the plants, but also the family photos. Both the last thing that the hole finally sucks into the frame, as well as the first thing that the worms interact with is that photo of her husband. And so I think we can take the worms as, and I'm kind of parsing this through as I speak, so forgive me if I sound a little less composed than normal, but I took it almost as a metaphor for, not being able to let go and move on.
Now, that is certainly one interpretation. I did see another one, Dan, and I'm curious to, I guess, parse your thoughts now. I saw that do you think this is in any way, shape, and form a metaphor for example, memory loss, Alzheimer's, or do you agree more with Nico's side of things?
That's interesting because I never thought about that. I do agree with Nico a little bit more, especially with the pictures, because the worms try to take don't they try to take the picture and then she stops them?
Yeah, she stops them.
Yeah, and you're right. It's the first thing that happens, or that they take, they touch, they do. So I feel like it's her trying to hold on to that, and then once they take them, then she realizes, I need to let this go too, and then she jumps in the hole.
I think it's more of a fear of loss than a fear of memory loss, although they are kind of intertwined because, the photo represents a memory, so it's kind of shifty.
Yeah. What do you think, Justin? What are your thoughts on the memory loss?
I just posed the point because I did see this obviously on Alter on YouTube. I'd be remiss to not mention that comment I saw, and I'm not going to try to pass off other ideas as my own. So I did see that about it potentially being related to Alzheimer's. However, I do agree with both of you. I don't quite think that's it. I do think it has more to do with just her having dealt with loss in her life. And so because of that, she holds tight to everything else that she can. Now, my kind of point that I was thinking about, though, I don't think the worms are evil or bad.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No.
I think the worms are actually a positive force in her life, because now I don't know if it's as far as to say that's a metaphor for maybe any children or family that she might have, but it's one of those things where they helped her. Because if you notice at the start of the movie, and this is a really cool kind of set design thing, I watched it about 3 times. I watched it once with my sister, once by myself, did some reading, and then watched it again. So at the start, you can see it's a kind of dank, not even like the good dank, but the bad dank kind of looking house. It's plants everywhere, not a lot of light coming in. And then once everything is cleared, there's almost that feeling of revival and rebirth, symbolized by the flower blooming.
And the light.
Yeah. So I almost feel like they came through. And keep in mind, what is the function of a worm? Like, what do worms do?
They help the plant.
They help fertilize the soil.
Yeah, they help fertilize soil and the soil and things like that, because they kind of eat through the things that we don't need anymore.
Yeah.
And they use that to create nutrition and sustenance. So
cards on the table. We are not entomologists. Please don't add us.
Not yet anyways. So
oh shit.
Yeah, but no, like that was my thought behind those worms. And now I thought it was interesting as well because the flower bloomed when the sunlight hit it, right? And I almost feel like the flower, now I didn't know if this was just like my terrible eyesight or what, but the flower that she had, was that flower growing outside? Like there was a shot briefly where you see kind of some flowers outside. I don't know if that was like a super special flower that wasn't growing outside.
I didn't catch that.
I did see some other white flowers outside. And so I didn't know if like, I didn't quite catch that. I'm unsure, but
I feel really bad because I don't know and I want to know.
it was like, it was pretty cool. And so I didn't know if like those were meant to be that same flower. Also the picture of her husband, you know, he's holding gardening gloves and he's holding a potted plant. And I think that's the same pot that she has because it's got the little symbol on it, the picture on it and everything else. So I don't quite know exactly, but yeah, I thought she had a chance. And I've gone back and forth a billion times over what her jumping into the hole actually means. I can't decide if it's her finally letting go and embracing the future, or if it's a negative thing and she chose to stay in the darkness with her memories.
It's a really nice duality.
I feel like it has to be, and I've gone back and forth, so ask me tomorrow, I might change my mind, but I feel like it's her choosing to stay with her memories.
Yeah,
because
that's what I think too.
She does have one last look outside. It's bright, it's beautiful. You could go outside, but she doesn't.
She
stays. Yeah. And she makes the choice to stay with her plans and her memories. And it's pretty sad, but I mean, I know people like that. So yeah, that's probably my favorite scene as well. Just where she looks outside and the light hits the flower and everything else. Dan, what's your favorite scene?
So my favorite scene was when she puts the tarp on the over the hole. The hole sucks the tarp in, and then she's like, "Nope, I am out of here." And she immediately packs her bags and goes to rush out the door. And at that point, I was like, "I feel you. Like that is exactly what I would do." And then right when she gets to the door, she stops, and that's when like she can't go outside, and she just can't do it.
It's
and
so sad.
Yeah, and it was a really interesting duality to me because like immediately, you know, seconds before that, I was almost laughing at like how much I connected with that I need to get out of here kind of nope kind of feeling. And then all of a sudden, like I got hit with like emotion because I was like, damn, like I know that feeling too of not being able to go somewhere or do something, not necessarily for the same reasons, but like you want to go do something. There's something so you want so bad, but you just can't bring yourself to do it for whatever reasons. And I don't know, like I just really connected with that. And especially the sort of juxtaposition of the two feelings, like back to back, like one after another. Really, that was my favorite scene there.
So Nico, what was your favorite scene in this movie?
So I'm going to steal yours and say the end, but also wanted to give a shout out to just the implementation of the worms in general, but sort of like almost combining the two of those. I mentioned it earlier at the beginning of the review here, just that the sound you were talking about, the sort of like the ambient drones reminded me of Silent Hill, and that did, as well as the hole, as well as the worms, as well as just everything about this. And I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just, you know, a little bit of serendipity that it happened. It hit all the right chords for me, literally and figuratively. And it's just like it was a perfect ending for me.
Perfect. All right. So obviously the audience had a very positive reaction to this, and so do we. Where would you put this?
1 to 100.
I mean,
go ahead.
I'll state my piece right now if y'all want me to.
Yeah, please.
All right. So I would stick this right about at a 90 for me.
Yeah.
I truthfully think, and I'll say this, while I did say earlier that it wasn't a out and out horror movie, it had just enough horror elements for me to justify including it on a podcast like this. But more so to the point, it truthfully moved me. Like I was truthfully moved by this movie. First off, time of recording, we're still all in quarantine. And not that it's anywhere near what that lady's going through, but even having the smallest sip of that, being stuck in my house, and I can't leave because there's, you know, a virus out there right now. And she can't leave because of her own personal demons, but, you know, I've gotten a taste of what it's like to not be able to leave your house when you want to. And that shit sucks. very, very small taste of isolation, you know? Like nowhere near as bad as what she's going through. But that I think really helped me to connect with the movie. Also just, I mean, like Dan said, I love for things to be shown and not told to me. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes modern movies make is they tell too much and they don't show enough. Well,
I
this
literally
was all
teach that in my
show.
classes.
This was all show. Like everything had a purpose, everything had a meaning. I mean, I found myself going through this movie at some point in time, just like mashing the spacebar button. Like I tried to read the package that she got to see if there was a return address. I mashed the spacebar button on the photo of the husband to see if I could pick out any details. I, mashed the pause button again to like look at the flowers outside. I was rewarded for my attention, and I will love any movie that does that for me. So yes, I give it a 90. Fucking well done. Dan?
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that 90. I thought the production value was incredible. I mean, every person involved in this film, I thought did an amazing job.
I didn't name everyone because I couldn't, but yes, they all did really well.
I mean, we talked about sound, cinematography. I mean, the lighting, the editing, like everything was spot on. And I think you brought up a really good point about it moving you. We talk about that sometimes in past episodes about, oh, this was a really good movie, but it didn't, like, I can't give it that high of a score because it was missing something. Something didn't move me. Like, you can't write it down on paper, but, something was missing. This, I think, had that. It moved me. As kind of said before, I understood a lot of the themes and everything that was going on without a single word being said. I just thought it was amazing. Very well done.
Nico?
So this, I first off, I agree with everything you guys just said. I would give it a mid 90s personally. But the thing that I love about this movie, and I think this speaks to, in particular, the different perspective that I have with horror versus what you have, Justin. So like I was saying earlier, this is to, my / I guess our interpretation, if I can speak for all of us, a film that is really just personifying and giving life to grief. And now this isn't a scary movie, but insofar as it deals with something that is traumatic, something that, is profound and affects you, like it's not terrifying, but the way I see horror is that it is an exploration of, how we are negatively affected by things and how we respond to that. So insofar as this is depicting grief so vividly, I would call this a horror movie, at least by our, current, or at least my sort of lens. But no, I've really loved it.
Dope. So I ponder this. I bring this to the table. Given that we've placed it in the 90s, all three of us, does this warrant the golden seal of approval?
Absolutely.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, agreed. There you go. In Full Bloom by Maegan Houang gets, first off, it catches the notoriety of being the first short film to make it into those upper echelons. And it's also, I will say, the first one to make it into the upper echelons that wasn't a major production. I know Color Out of Space, you can go back and forth on that, but that was still like a big deal movie,
Had Nick Cage in it, for
had
God's
Nick Cage.
sakes.
Yeah.
So, but no, this completely took me off guard. I mean, I watched it with my sister, and I think we both, not that my mom is in the same situation as that woman, but small elements reminded me of like my mom or my auntie. And I was like, yeah, like I should go home more. So, yeah, that's where I took it. You guys have anything else you guys want to say? Any kind of closing notes?
Well done. Just keep
well done.
making these, Maegan. You've done
really
fantastic.
I'm really excited to see if you come out with any more.
Definitely.
See what those would be.
For true. All right. So that's been it from Nico, Dan, and Just here at Don't Open That Door. Always remember, please, if you do need some Evil Be Gone, you can always hit us on Twitter or Instagram at DOTD Horror. And you can always catch us on Facebook at Don't Open That Door. That's been it from us here at Don't Open That Door. Everybody, please keep yourself safe. And as always, ladies and gents, don't open that door. Have a great night.